When players go down with injury, you need to have options. Tom Fitzgerald put an exclamation point on that statement, especially this past offseason. Welcome in to Devils Digest. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. Devils have Edmonton in town tonight. Good team. And new player will be joining the lineup today. I shouldn't even say new. Simon Nemec in the lineup tonight. He'll take out Jonas Chwalski, paired up with Brenden Dillon. Look, I went on the show yesterday and I said, I want Seamus Casey back in the lineup. I think he has enough offense. I think he's a little bit different than the guys in the lineup currently. I think he can add some stuff with the upside. And that's where I return to. I look upside right now with the Devils, with not having Dougie Hamilton, not having Jonas Siegenthaler, not having Jack Hughes. I'm not saying completely experiment with everything. But when you have top players, top producers, changers of the game out of the lineup, you need to find some type of upside. And they feel Simon Nemec gives them that upside. Look, we know the type of year that Simon Nemec has had. He's struggled. Game in Winnipeg, probably his worst game of the season. He was a -3. Couple of goals you could have probably said were directly on him. Look, those type of games happen. He's had a struggle of a season. But when you really look at it, he's played 16 games. When New Jersey drafted Simon Nemec overall, or second overall, did they really just look at 16 games? 16 games is not a big enough of a sample size. That's not what makes you a second overall pick. That's not what makes you a good or bad player. This is too small of a sample size to really go ahead and put a young player, 21 years old by the way, just was legally able to drink a little while ago, put a young player and just say, oh, well, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. 16 games wasn't very good. Last season, when the Devils' defense wasn't great, Simon Nemec was one of the bright spots. He was one of the players where, you felt okay putting out there. He added a little bit more. And that's what Tom Fitzgerald, Sheldon Keefe are hoping they can get from him down the stretch. Because they didn't draft him second overall on 16 games. I don't think there's a GM that would do that. So, the bad season, or the tough season, ups and downs for Simon Nemec, I don't think can be justified. When you give a player going in and out of the lineup in the NHL, out of the AHL, a game here, sat here, what player is going to play well under that type of circumstances? We all remember year one, Jack Hughes, he had a struggle of a year. He kept getting played out there. They kept putting him out there. 7 goals, 14 assists. Oh, wow, that turns into a 99-point player because you're stuck with him. He kept producing, getting better, and all of a sudden now he's a superstar. The Devils really took 65 games of Jack Hughes because that's what he played that year and just said, you know what, it's just not going to work in the NHL. He's just not, we made a mistake here. That whole entire staff would have been fired. I mean, they did get fired anyway, but they didn't get fired off of that. You have to give the player more time. And, Simon Nemec talked about it a little bit. It's not easy, but it's part of the business, part of hockey. I'm a pro. I'm trying to figure it out, and I think this season will help me. I'm way more mentally stronger than I was last year. This is a player you want to root for. Second overall pick, one of the top Czech players to go that high. This is a player we want to root for, you want to root for. We want to see do well. And I think he can do very well. I still think he's going to be a good NHL player. I talked about it, Fitzgerald went out. He's gotten a bunch of defensive players, gotten a bunch of defensemen, really kind of retooled this defense, especially in this offseason. There's at least 3 new players in the lineup every single night that he acquired in this offseason. When you look at all that and you look at a young Simon Nemec being drafted second overall in 2022, I can understand where Simone Nemec is coming from. Because usually when you're drafted second overall, you're not going to a team with a bunch of roster spots locked up. Usually the team is rebuilding, needs some more time, and you're a huge part of their rebuild. But with the Devils being a contending team and the rebuild kind of all coming into one that season that was just building up for a while, but then the results started to show in 2022, 2023, all of a sudden he kind of got put in an awkward position. Not a position that you expect. And he's had some struggles with it. He's been in the AHL. He's been scratched. He's been benched. When you have somebody telling you over and over and over again, you're not doing something right, you're not doing this right, this isn't going well. You can be mentally strong, but at some point you're gonna still feel it. You can't just get rid of it. It's gonna be there. It's gonna sting a little bit. And when it keeps going wrong, these are the type of things that can happen. But now you got 18 games left. Simone Nemec has a shot to play his best 18 games and throw all that away. Like I said earlier, Tom Fitzgerald, people weren't happy with his deadline. All of a sudden, those great contracts he signed with Jesper, Bratt, Jack Hughes, Nico, Hischier, people weren't talking about it as much anymore. Those are the type of things that can happen. Things change quick. I'm not a fan of recency biasness. Recency biasness, unfortunately, does exist, and it's not going away anytime soon. So, when you look at Simone Nemec, 16 games this year, he struggled. I'm not putting everything into 16 games. I'm putting actually probably very little stock into a 16-game stretch. Let's go look at the lineups, though, for tonight. Why not? Luke Hughes, Brett Pesce, Brian Dumoulin, Johnathan Kovacevic, and Nemec on the bottom pairing with Brenden, Dillon, one of the defensemen they acquired in the offseason. I mean, you look at this lineup right now, and there are 4 defensemen who weren't on this team last year in the lineup tonight. And Nemec is one of the 2 that wasn't. Nemec and Luke Hughes, who were both rookies last season. All right, that's the Devils lineup tonight. I mean, is it necessarily a good thing, bad thing? Well, they have options. Tom Fitzgerald really made sure that, if we have defensive injuries, we're going to have NHL players in the lineup. And that's what they have this season. Maybe last season, a little bit more questionable. But Nemec on a bottom pairing role with Brenden, Dillon. Look, it's kind of a low-risk, high-reward type of situation here. I don't think it's a big risk if you're giving Simone Nemec, 13, 14 minutes tonight, 15 minutes tonight. Whatever those numbers may be, I'm sure Sheldon Keefe has a better idea than me. But whatever those numbers are, I don't see where you're in a high-risk situation. Oh, we got Nemec back in the lineup. He hasn't played well. The Devils are going to... Calm down, okay? It's a second overall pick. He's played 16 games this year. He's been in and out of the lineup. He's been sat. He's going to make mistakes. Seamus Casey was going to as well. We have to take that in and understand there are mistakes that are going to be made. But when you learn off of those mistakes, when you start to continue to develop, when you start scoring, when you start having people all of a sudden realize, okay, wow, this is why the Devils drafted him second overall. All of a sudden, you got a top player. I mean, we saw it ourselves with Jack Hughes. I just brought him up earlier, but I'm bringing him up again. Shane Wright, also in that draft. He's got, I think, 37 points in his last 43 games. Started off the year 18 games, 2 points. Juraj Slafkovsky, same draft. All these players from that draft, none of them are completely developed yet. The difference is that now guys like Shane Wright, they stuck with him. 18 games, 2 points. Well, now 37 and 43. Juraj Slafkovsky, tough rookie year, 50 points last year. This is the type of development you have to go through with young players. Maybe we got a little bit spoiled because we had that really good year And we're just thinking that, like, oh, everyone should play like John Marino. Oh, everyone should play like Jonas Siegenthaler on a defensive side. No, it doesn't happen right away. Defense is one of the hardest ways to transition to the NHL. Offensive defensemen transition quicker. Your offensive game transitions usually quicker. But that defensive side struggles in the beginning. It's a different type of game. You haven't played with players this fast. You haven't played with players this skilled. But before you were drafted, you showed the intangibles that you could be one of these players and one of the better players in the league. That's why you're drafted second overall. So, Simon Nemec in the lineup tonight. There you go. Tonight, I like it a lot. I'm excited to see Simon Nemec. Let me know your comments. Let me know what you think. Simon Nemec in the lineup tonight, and I'm rooting for him, and I'm rooting for the Devils. So, hopefully, big game for the Devils tonight against Edmonton. Chance to make some stretch in the standings. So, all right, I'll see you guys. Hopefully, you subscribed.